Hey everyone, today is Monday, December 30th, 2024. Welcome back to Weather on the Go. My name is Hunter, and in this forecast, we're going to be talking about a big pattern change moving into early January, the likes of which could bring a substantial winter storm to parts of the country, followed by some true Arctic air from Canada and the Arctic as we go into early January, especially that second week in January. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel and check back often for updates here. We have the updates 24/7 for you on this channel. We're likely doing an afternoon update to update you on the models and what they are showing as well. So make sure to turn on post notification bell for that as well. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, concerns below, and also share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look at the weather alerts across the United States here on this Monday, December 30th, and you can see a lot of colors on here in the grays across the Mississippi Valley, but really focused across the upper Mississippi Valley here, across Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, and Illinois. That's where the thickest of our dense fog will likely reside as over the next 24 hours. We also have dense fog advisories down here into Arkansas, Louisiana, Western Tennessee, and Mississippi. Patchy dense fog down in this region. Here into the purples and pinks. Into the purples, those are winter weather advisories where we see accumulating snow becoming more likely throughout the day. And into those higher elevations in the pinks, those are winter storm warnings where the snowfall will be a little bit more enhanced across those areas. And then down here into Colorado, into parts of New Mexico and West Texas and the Oklahoma Panhandle, western Kansas, into the pinks, those are red flag warnings. The soil's dry, but we're having some stronger winds. So that is definitely going to create some fire danger. And we have high wind warnings off the lee side of the Rockies where we could definitely be screaming in those winds over the next 24 to 36 hours. Let's look first here at the visibility issues with the dense fog. And notice how up here across the upper Mississippi Valley, as we identified, is the most dense of the fog this afternoon across a majority of the state of Minnesota, much of western and central Wisconsin, northern Iowa, northern Illinois, and even some pretty dense fog here in eastern Nebraska this afternoon as well. Heading into the evening, it's really going to thicken, it's going to lower, and we're going to see visibility under a quarter mile. Some areas possibly even closing in on near zero visibility here, especially into places like Rochester, Minnesota, La Crosse, Madison, Rockford, maybe over there towards Chicago as we go into the evening hours. And that could affect the evening rush there in Chicago. And then going into early Tuesday morning, definitely still seeing some patchy dense fog up in those areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois. But we're also seeing fog, some visibility restrictions under a half mile at times down into the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida as well, with some of that moisture out there, even especially after those severe storms dropping all that rain. That's where the fog is going to be coming from. Looking here at the temperature anomalies for today, another mild day it will be across the central and eastern U.S. We have some hints of cooler weather, but no Arctic air yet as we go through today. Still no Arctic air on New Year's Eve, but notice the colder anomalies starting to push into southwestern Canada and bleeding into the western and central U.S. That is the start of our pattern change, and by New Year's Day on Wednesday, January 1st, a lot of that colder air will be moving into the central and eastern U.S. But again, the Arctic, the true Arctic air is still yet to come. That is starting to build across western Canada. Let's look here at the precipitation as we go into the afternoon. We got that Clipper system that is opposing those winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings here. That is going to drop some pretty heavy snow in the higher elevations of Montana, of Wyoming, and then some decent moderate bands of snow across South Dakota and northern Nebraska. Some of that will turn into rain as we have those mild temperatures. So Omaha will likely stay rain here, Kansas City over here toward portions of northern Missouri. Then as we go into tonight, that will change over to snow as we cool our temperatures down. So Omaha could start to see some snow. Des Moines back down into Kansas City, at least a rain snow mix for you. The Atlanta Lincoln over here in Illinois, Peoria down toward into portions there of Macomb. Getting into Champaign, Urbana, into the Bloomington area, you're likely seeing just mostly rain as we go into tonight. Going into Tuesday, New Year's Eve, could be spreading some snow over there towards South Bend, Fort Wayne, maybe even into Grand Rapids. A mix of rain and snow there into Toledo and into Detroit as well. And then more rain the further south you go toward Kentucky. Into Tuesday night, this is New Year's Eve. If you're watching the ball drop live from New York City, you might have to bring an umbrella because we're definitely going to be seeing a few showers, maybe a couple thunderstorms there in the New York City area, at least briefly here Tuesday night, later on in the evening, and that will be toward when the ball drops here at midnight. Seeing some snow showers as colder air rushes in on the backside, maybe some lake enhancement to that snow across the upper peninsula there of Michigan, and on the windward side of Lake Michigan here on western lower Michigan, could be seeing some heavier snow bands. Then going into Wednesday, New Year's Day, we're just kind of seeing a lot of lake effect snow with this, some interior northeast rain snow mix, but definitely remaining all rain across the I-95 corridor for New Year's Day. And then there's our next big storm coming in across the Pacific Northwest, bringing in some snow showers in the higher elevations and some rain there into Portland and northwestern California. Overall, here's your total precipitation going through your New Year's Day time frame on January 1st, 2025. Notice the track takes it from west-northwest to east-northeast here, and it's pretty much the northern U.S. getting in on some of the snow. Again, it's not going to be blockbuster type snowstorm, but definitely seeing the potential for a couple inches here back into South Dakota and Nebraska, maybe an inch or so in Iowa there, and then the higher elevations of Montana, Wyoming. Naturally, you'll be seeing over 6 inches worth of snow with this system. Now, let's look here at our pattern change as we go in towards Wednesday, January 1st, and then beyond, going through the following weekend here, Sunday, January 5th. We're going to see the blocking up here into Greenland and northeast of the Hudson Bay. Also seeing blocking on the other side over here in Alaska. That will lower the pressure underneath. We're going to have a trough across the eastern and northeastern U.S. that's going to start to build across the east as we get toward that Sunday time frame. And now we're starting to see that true Arctic air really start to organize and gather up here in Western Canada, and that will start to bleed down at least into Montana and North Dakota, northern Minnesota initially by the weekend, and just some, colder temperatures, not really Arctic air into the eastern United States by Sunday, but definitely some colder air than what we've been seeing. And then a little bit of a ridge across the Pacific Southwest will keep our temperatures slightly above normal over there. This is going to come with some fanfare. We are going to see a big moisture-laden system somewhere across the central and eastern U.S. when this pattern change occurs. And looking at the Pacific Northwest, we're going to see northern stream energy coming down, meeting up with southern stream energy here for a pretty decent moisture-laden system into the mid-Mississippi Valley as we go in toward this weekend, and the models are hinting at that. So let's look at 2 operational runs of the models here. The European model operational run for Thursday, January 2nd. There's that northern stream energy dropping higher elevation snows across the Pacific Northwest. Southern stream energy, you're starting to see hints of that down here in South Texas. Coastal Texas, where we're starting to see some lighter rains and moisture advecting northward. Going into Friday, again, we're still seeing that moisture advection further north. Could be a little tampered with by a triple area of high pressure. And by the way, this is some stronger high pressure, 1,028, 1,034, 1,038. So it's going to kind of eat away at some of that drier air. But the northern stream energy over here in the Pacific Northwest is pretty robust on Friday. So some heavier snows there across Washington State and Oregon, Idaho, Montana, western Wyoming. Pretty heavy rain across portions of the lower elevations of the West Coast there. Then going into Saturday, a lot of this energy starts to meet up there. We are concerned a little bit more about potentially a mixture of precipitation in Nebraska, northern Kansas. That is becoming a little bit more confident, at least on the European model. Something we'll watch there. Northern stream energy bringing in that snowfall. We got the rainfall further south, and then it really comes together on Sunday on the European. We do have an ice storm threat somewhere in the middle. We got potentially some heavy rain, severe weather threat on the south side. And then an all-out snowstorm with winter weather across portions of the north on the far northern side of the system. But as that colder Arctic air comes in, there's going to be a sharp cutoff on that snowfall line on the northern edge because Arctic air is dry air. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that sharp cutoff. And that could be one of those setups where 30 miles down the road, you get a foot of snow, and then you go north 30 miles and you barely get a flake of snow. That could be a thing with this storm here. And that it could be a thing as these models come together that we'll be watching for, at least with the mesoscale models as we get closer. You can see on the European model, by Monday, January 6th, pretty robust 994 millibar low over Cincinnati there. Deformation snow band on the backside. You got the ice storm threat here with some cold air damming down here in towards Virginia, West Virginia, and then maybe even into Western Carolinas, even though the model doesn't show it here. But that also may stay all rain. Let's look at the GFS model, see if there's any differences. On Thursday, again, northern stream energy up here to the northwest. Southern stream energy in the western Gulf that's going to advect northward again. It is agreeing that those high pressure systems is going to have a lot of dry air. eating away at some of that southern stream energy, at least initially. It's starting to come together here, maybe a little bit further south with the mixture of rain and snow, or some freezing rain here, maybe into more of southern Kansas on the GFS model. So there's a little bit of a difference. The GFS model is also, again, a little bit further south of a threat for potentially some ice there into the mid-Mississippi Valley on Sunday. Decent snowstorm. Again, it is showing a sharper cutoff with that on the northern side, but then look at how far north the warm air goes. The GFS model is a little bit further north of a solution, weaker of a low pressure system here at 1,004 millibars. Brings the ice storm threat, instead of it being down here toward Kentucky, Tennessee, up there toward Indiana, Ohio, and the snow line thus is further north into Wisconsin and more Michigan than Iowa and Illinois. So something to keep an eye on there for Monday. Overall, looking at the European model snowfall, again, don't take away the snowfall amounts here. We're not doing that. We're just showing you the trends and the track of the snowfall potentially with these systems here. You can see it takes it from the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, back here toward the lower part of the Midwest. We're going to keep an eye on that. Looking at the GFS, the American model guidance takes it a little bit further north of a solution, so maybe more of the Midwest here and less of the Ohio Valley seeing snow, more of the Great Lakes region. So a little bit of a difference of a couple hundred miles is really going to make the difference between who gets a foot of snow potentially and who gets more ice or just all rain. So something to keep an eye on there. So let's talk about the ice as well, because I think an ice storm threat is definitely on the table here. The European model showing a pretty robust ice storm from Kansas eastward toward West Virginia. And the GFS model really not that much dissimilar, maybe just a little bit further north with the ice threat towards central Illinois, central Indiana, and Ohio. And that is something that is worth noting as we do get closer to this event. Nothing is etched in stone right now with the snow track, the ice track, anything like that. We just want to show you the trends on these models. Let's look at the temperature outlook beyond this storm, because it's going to pull down some Arctic air, and some pretty significant Arctic air is likely on the table for the central and eastern U.S. going all the way through Sunday, January 12th of 2025. And some of this Arctic air could really bring down some bitterly cold wind chills, the likes of which we couldn't have seen since maybe 2021, 2022 levels up here in the upper Midwest. And then we have that positive P&A out here across the Pacific Southwest, bringing in that ridge. We're going to see some warmer than normal temperatures out west. Now, in this pattern, once that colder air establishes itself across the central and eastern U.S., colder air is drier air, so we're going to see more northwest flow patterns coming in, more clipper systems on the backside here from Montana diving down to the plains, at times the Midwest here, and then seeing more of a southeastern and eastern storm track. Would not rule out a nor'easter potential into that second week of January up here, so don't be upset if you don't see big snows for the first system in the Northeast or New England. Even on the coast, definitely could be seeing another storm as we go into the second week of January that could spread some pretty hefty winter weather up across the Northeast if everything comes together just right, and maybe even some deep south snowfall and wintry weather as well in this type of pattern. So we'll keep you updated on that right here on this channel. Subscribe to the channel for the latest weather information 24/7. Like the video, give it a thumbs up down below. I definitely appreciate it. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. Get the word out. Also, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. Of course, we'll get to those after the video, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Monday out there.